What's going on, everybody? It's the Bulls Show, aka Aidan, and welcome back to another video. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got a Chicago Bulls weekly episode for you guys as we discuss the previous week for the Chicago Bulls and look forward to the upcoming week as well, while giving out a few awards, some of them good, some of them not so good for the Chicago Bulls. We're going to be discussing it all in this video, but before we get started, please like and subscribe to the Bulls Show. Turn notifications on and let me know in the comments below your thoughts about the Chicago Bulls previous week and upcoming week ahead. And also feel free to let me know about the, awards we give throughout the entirety of the week. We had 4 games to play this week, ladies and gentlemen, and we went a pretty solid 3-1. I'd pretty much take that every single time that we play every single week. A very good positive record and some pretty good victories for the Chicago Bulls, beating teams that were expected to be while also doing things, again, in prior of injuries. And injuries did play a big factor towards the end of the week, but we still managed to walk away with the win. Things are still going to get very difficult in the upcoming week as well, but we do have a lot of time to look forward to that. We've got a couple of games next week that will be very difficult for us, but we're going to start things off with our first game against the Portland Trail Blazers of the previous week, where we won 130-116. A very good offensive game as per usual for the Chicago Bulls. I think most of our offensive games have been very strong for the Chicago Bulls this week, but defensively we still managed to make sure that this was going to be a close game for the majority. Portland did have a really good stretch where they shot a very good amount of threes and made them, and our defense did struggle in that game. But they had a lot of injuries, ladies and gentlemen, especially to their star player in Damian Lillard, who did not play for the Portland Trail Blazers. And they're kind of in a situation where they're tanking. Obviously, they have made some trades to kind of show that. Robert Covington is not on the Portland Trail Blazers anymore, but he was when he played in this game against the Chicago Bulls. It goes to show how quickly things can change. And obviously, we did what we were supposed to do. We beat the Portland Trail Blazers at the United Center, and we did exactly what we needed to do as well, pick up a huge victory away at home against good opposition, or against opposition that we should be beating. I wouldn't necessarily call them good opposition with all the injuries that they have. But then we turned to the next game against the Orlando Magic, and we won this game 126-115. A very similar game between these two, ladies and gentlemen, but very two important games. Again, knowing the type of week that we have and the potential injuries we may face heading into next week, games like the Orlando Magic becomes 10 times more important. Games like the Portland Trail Blazers becomes 10 times more important. And you have to find ways to win those games when they're not at their best, and of course when we are not at our best. And we delivered and we beat the Orlando Magic. Defensively, we were still an issue, and as always seems to be the case throughout the course of the week, but our offense was really strong in this game, and it showed with a big victory against the Orlando Magic. We headed to Toronto, ladies and gentlemen, our first overtime game of our season. I think the Raptors had 4 overtime games heading into this game, or maybe 3, and that was their 4th overtime game. And we lost this game 127-120. We were pretty much down the whole game, but we had the chance to win. Vucevic made one hell of a layup, scored 30 points in that game. He was dominant all night, and it almost felt like we were going to run away with a win in Canada. And of course, the lack of size around them to go and grab some defensive rebounds led to the overtime for the Toronto Raptors. They got a putback layup. Overtime came into their way, and they did have a lot more experience in overtime than we did, and we fall away to the Toronto Raptors. There's no shame in losing to Toronto, especially with the hot streak that they were going on before that game with the Chicago Bulls, obviously. And we gave it everything that we had, and sometimes you just fall away. You're not expected to win every single game throughout the course of the season. Toronto is a team we have beaten before, and they now have beaten us. And it just goes to show that the NBA is a very close competitive race from start to finish. And sometimes you're just going to lose those battles. It's a shame that we lost. We could have went undefeated this week if we ended up getting a defensive rebound. Put it that way. If we got the last defensive rebounds of the game, we could have ran away with an undefeated week. Sometimes that's fine margins for you, ladies and gentlemen. And then we head to the Indiana Pacers, 2 teams with really banged up injuries. We didn't have Zach LaVine and Kobe White amongst all of our other injuries. They didn't have Malcolm Brogdon. They didn't have Miles Turner, they didn't have Domantas Sabonis. Their size kind of fell away for the Indiana Pacers side. And another game where Vucevic was extremely strong when we won 122 to 115. Karis LeVert nearly dropped 50 points on us, but at the end of the day, we walked away with an incredibly strong victory off of the second night of the back-to-back. And we have a lot to look forward to heading into next week, and we could still be very tired from all of the games that we had to battle through. But all that being said, that Indiana Pacers game is just as important as the Portland and the Magic game. It feels like every single game at the moment that we're finding ways to win is very important. It all leads down to a couple of games. It all leads down to that All-Star break, and then we could get some of our guys very healthy again. So we just have to find those ways to battle against teams that we're supposed to beat and teams that we might not expect it to be. Just got to keep on battling and find ways to win those games. It's going to be an interesting turn of events. Who knows how much we win and how much we lose going forward. But this week was very strong for the Chicago Bulls, and I have nothing else to say about that situation. Looking at the must improve for all of the week, I guess you could say. It's been fairly up and down, and some guys have not been able to play the whole week. But my eyes lean towards two guys, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm very harsh on these two guys. But the reality is, with the trade deadline heading in the direction for the Chicago Bulls, it's very hard for me to not go beyond these two guys, because I think everybody else has had strong weeks for the Chicago Bulls. It's either Tyler Cook or Tony Bradley for me. But Tony Bradley had strong games against Portland, had a strong game against the Pacers despite not scoring. So for me, I'm going to give it to Tyler Cook again. It's a bit of a frustrating one to give at the end of the day, and it doesn't make me really happy to give it because I know he doesn't play a lot of minutes. In fact, for some of these games, he's pretty much got no minutes at all. But the truth of the matter is, I think that's the only position for the Chicago Bulls that we just simply can't trust anybody in. The backup center position needs to be addressed, in my opinion, and if it's not addressed, we need massive step-ups from guys like Tyler Cook and Tony Bradley, who both have had their ups and downs this season, and both have had ups and downs this week. But Tony Bradley, in my opinion, has had some solid moments, and that's why he probably gets a little bit more leeway for this award specifically. There could be more they could give to this award too, in my opinion. Obviously, there will be other guys. I'm sure you'll let me know in the comments below. But for me, that's the direction I'm leaning towards. And it just is hard to ignore that backup center position at the moment, because it really does feel like we're just going on based on who plays better on the night. And there's no real trust factor or adjustment or real even coaching effort to try and decide who to go with on certain nights. We're not picking Tyler Cook at times because we want to go small ball. We're picking him because he probably plays better on the day. We play both of them. Whoever plays better gets more minutes. That's kind of what I feel like with the backup center position. And it's not really a good idea, in my opinion. If you want to mix and match and adjust to other teams, that's great. That's fair. But if we're just going based on who plays better every single night, then there's a lack of trust in both guys in my eyes. And I do not want to see that happen in the future. The sixth man of the week for me, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to give it, again, it's a harsh one to really give because he did miss a game, but I'm going to give it to Kobe White because there's no one else that really is scoring on the bench for the Chicago Bulls. Troy Brown Jr. had some games off the bench where he played nicely. Matt Thomas had a 10-point game, but it wasn't efficient. Tyler Cook had a couple games where he scored around 2-3 points. Tony Bradley had a 10-point game against Portland. But do you notice the difference in all of those games? None of them are consistent. I guess the one consistent, no matter how badly he's shooting, is Kobe White scoring off of this bench. It makes me excited to see what this bench could be fully healthy, because if Kobe White can still score, we're in a much better position to win more games. But until we see that bench healthy, Kobe White's really the only one that I can trust on this team at the moment off of that bench to really contribute in scoring, maybe if it's even playmaking at times. Sometimes it's defense, but the reality is we have to trust him in something, and there's a lot of players on this bench, maybe outside of Kobe White and Troy Brown Jr., there's some guys on this bench I simply can't trust on a full-time basis. Simple as that, I guess. The player of the week, I think this guy truly deserves it. I know DeMar DeRozan has had an incredible week, and I think according to statistics, you might need to give it to DeMar DeRozan. But I've been giving this guy a lot of stick for a long time now, and he's been very inconsistent. But my player of the week is Nikola Vucevic. 2 amazing games against the Raptors and the Indiana Pacers. He had a pretty solid game, if I remember, as well against the Portland Trail Blazers. I actually don't remember much about his Orlando Magic game. I assume just because Wendell outplayed him, that's all I really remember. But outside of that, at the end of the day, there's going to be 1 or 2 bad games for every single player. All I want is consistency. We played 2 weeks of basketball, and all I could really remember is 1 bad game from him against the Orlando Magic, and maybe the other game against Orlando as well, to be fair, was last week as well. So 2 bad games against Orlando, but consistent all the way through for every other team. Very solid, good in the paint, good production, good efficiency, even good defense at times. So this week especially, I thought he was really incredible for some of these games. Pacers game, unbelievable. Raptors game, extremely strong. Portland game, he was battling against a really good center, and he did well and he held his own. Magic game, excluding, of course. So yeah, it's a bit of an interesting one, maybe a little bit of a controversial one, but I feel like he truly deserves it. And through all of the criticism that people likes to give him, when he has a good week like this, I don't want to ignore it. And in fact, I think it should be rewarded because we do have tougher games heading into the next week. And if he can still remain at that consistent level, then ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to be more than happy with Nikola Vucevic. Moving into the next week for the Chicago Bulls, first things first, the game against Philadelphia. Extremely important game against Philadelphia. At home, obviously. Just a little bit of a news factor for this game, I guess you could say as well. Kobe White and Zach LaVine are still questionable to play against the Philadelphia 76ers. It's a very early game as well, so things are not in our favor, but we do have the home court advantage, of course, and we have to win this game for our coaching staff, ladies and gentlemen. If you don't know, the last game for our coaching staff to enter that All-Star game for the Chicago Bulls to represent our team and our city is this game against Philadelphia. This is a very important game to help those coaching staff to be where they belong in the All-Star game. If we lose this game, Miami will take our spot as the first seeded team, and then Eric Spoelstra and obviously his coaching staff will enter the All-Star game. And I'm not saying Miami Heat's coaching staff doesn't deserve where they are. They've had an incredible run. They've had a lot of injuries as well. And if Miami do end up getting into that All-Star game with their coaching staff, all I can say is congratulations. I have no disrespect towards the Miami Heat, but I really, really, really want to see our coaching staff enter that All-Star game and represent that Eastern Conference the only way that I feel that they should. And this game against Philadelphia, if we win it, will give us that opportunity. So I hope, no matter how many injuries we have, no matter how many players are out, I truly hope we can find a way to win that game for our coaching staff. It's for them now, ladies and gentlemen. This win, this loss, in the grand scheme of things, it might not be so bad if we lose to Philly with a lot of guys out. Many people might see that as we fought well or we lost. But it does mean a lot to our coaching staff, in my opinion, and I really want to see them enter that All-Star game. Then we got that second night of a back-to-back against the Phoenix Suns at home. I guess the good thing about this back-to-back is that we're staying in Chicago, so we're going to have a little bit of time here. And Phoenix has always been a team I want to match up with. I hope in this game Zach and Kobe will play because I do want to see a relatively healthier Chicago Bulls team because I've always wanted to see how we match up against the Phoenix Suns. Obviously, our team is very down and out at the moment, and I don't know when it's going to get better overall. Maybe the next time we verse Phoenix, both teams will be healthy. But Phoenix is an interesting team. They're obviously in contention for the playoffs and potentially to win a championship. So I really want to see how we match up with a team like that we haven't versed before. Because again, I still believe we can compete with some of these teams. And if we can compete against the Phoenix Suns, it makes me feel even more confident towards our season. Then obviously we got the next game against Charlotte. This one's away from home, ladies and gentlemen. Obviously, it's no LaMelo versus Lonzo anymore. That's why this game has not been hyped up as much as the first time around. But of course, the Hornets, we did beat them comfortably in the last time that we played them. And I'm sure they're looking and eager to get a little bit of revenge over the Chicago Bulls. LaMelo Ball is a terrific player. They have a really decent team. Obviously, Vucevic is where I see this game really being the game changer because he is the center and they don't have a big center. So if we can apply the pressure with our center position, I think we'll be just fine in that game against the Charlotte Hornets. Let's wait and see. Then we got the next game at home to the Minnesota Timberwolves. Don't sleep on this team, ladies and gentlemen. They have terrific offensive firepower, and considering both of our defensive woes between Timberwolves and the Chicago Bulls, I expect this game to be extremely high scoring, and I expect the Chicago Bulls to hopefully seal the deal at home. But again, they have great offensive talent. They've been one of the funnest teams to watch in the NBA, in my opinion, and I'm not going to change my mind on that. People that take the Timberwolves for granted will end up feeling what they could do to the Chicago Bulls. We have to take that game very seriously. And then another back-to-back, ladies and gentlemen, that second night of a back-to-back against the OKC Thunder at the United Center. Obviously, we've seen what OKC could do against us. I don't think Shea is actually playing in this game, so that's going to be a huge advantage for the Chicago Bulls. But nevertheless, it's still a game, back-to-back, second night of a back-to-back, a really tough, grueling schedule these last 2 weeks. We have to be very focused and we can't get tired towards the end stretch. Again, we are so close to that All-Star break that if we could just continue to fight as a team to get to that All-Star break and have that well-rest that I'm sure all of our players need. We get some players back, hopefully. Maybe Zach LaVine can get fully healthy and Kobe White as well. Maybe we can see Derrick Jones Jr. or someone like that just get a little bit closer to their return. And then everything seems a little bit more positive and sunshine and rainbows for the Chicago Bulls. Obviously, things might not turn out to be that way, but that's the hope that we will have to look forward to. I'm going to end this video here, ladies and gentlemen. Those are the 5 games that we have to look forward to, and they're really tough games. I feel all of them are going to be tough for the Chicago Bulls, but they're all possible to win. We just have to have a little bit of faith, and we need to hope they can execute on the court defensively and offensively, but mainly defensively. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you're new. I'll see you in another Chicago Bulls video, ladies and gentlemen. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay tuned for more. Take care and peace.